basically, I went through the land use plan. I worked with the township, and everything I did was passed. I gained respect from this township, and I followed the criteria of the township. I followed the land use plan, and I will continue to follow the land use plan. And I'm a farmer at heart. I'm a steward of the land, and I can maintain the land use plan. What was the other question?
The question was, do you see any need for changes?
No, I do not see anything for changes, and I don't foresee any. I'm a steward of the land. I'm a dairy farmer at heart, and I don't foresee any changes that need to be made.
Thank you.
Well, the land use plan, that sits right now, is not a It's not a
Speak up,
or question. The land use plan is tabled currently for a number of issues. And so in its last revision, we weren't able to pass it. If you look at the land use plan and the density units established in 1979, that part of the land use plan works very, very well and wouldn't need to be changed. In the immediate revision that we were going to do, we were willing to consider transfer of development rights. There are a great many unintended consequences to transfer of development rights, and that issue in the current land use plan as revised may need to be changed. What needs to be changed in some regards may be how we apply the criteria of the land use plan. I think that we have to always look at the needs of the community and individual property rights in applying the land use plan. And so, no, I don't believe the land use plan needs wholesale changes. Yes, I do believe it needs to be amended. I am not in favor of transfer of development rights, and I think we need to balance the community needs and the rights of individuals.
Thank you.
The land use plan is your plan. This plan was adopted by the majority of the townspeople, and it's been looked at every 5 years since it's been adopted, and there have been changes made to it, and I think there will be changes made to it as we go down the road another 5 years. And the only changes that will be made is on the majority of the people that attend the public hearings, give the input to what changes they want made, and then again at a final public hearing, for everyone to come and vote it on them by the majority to accept it. And then of course the town board, because they represent you, as should vote yea or nay, depending on how the majority votes. Transfer of development rights, I think there is a place for development rights because there are farmers that are looking for this for their retirement and not having to sell their farms but wanting to retire on their farms. And if it meets the criteria, I see no reason that something like this shouldn't happen. I disagree with Barrett. I think all the applicants that have applied for building permits, the criteria has been before the town board, and that's what we based our decisions on. It might come up that it'll change now again in, what year is it again, Mary? Quite soon, I think. So be aware of this. If you have ideas you want to put in to amend the land use plan, please notice the hearings and come to them.
Thank you. Ken?
Yes, and the land use plan, I am presently a land use committee member, and I helped work on the last revision and so on. It seems like we think we've got a pretty good plan, and I think we do have a real good plan, but as times change and things out here change, we do have to make revisions to it. And that's why it's in the plan to revise it every 5 years. Like I say, being on the land use committee, being out on these site views and stuff, you do find things that maybe need to be changed. And that's where we need the input from the electors in the township, the residents. Because we don't think of everything, and they come with ideas, and that's what we gotta listen to, and that's what we need. I think the way it sits right now and with transfer of development rights, we did a lot of soul searching on them to make sure that it would benefit most of the people out here. I think it is a good thing, and hopefully it will come into effect where it will help many of the people out here.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
In regards to the land use, I was part of many of the meetings that went through the revisions of the land use. The revisions, they're solid, and how you can develop your land does seem reasonable. You know, what worries me is the transfer of development rights. It does sound good to have a farm and say I can now transfer my development rights off my farm, take the economic gain, and buy a new tractor, whatever you want to do. Retirement works great. The problem arises when your neighbor who owns 80 acres decides to buy 15 development rights. Not sure if everybody understands, but that 80 acres now could have 17 homes on it. It's potential. The other part that scares me about development rights is if you look at Township of Cottage Grove, they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at the first time their transfer development rights met up with reality. We're not set to go for another couple $100,000 in attorney fees to see if what we wrote was correct. For that reason, I would look deep into that issue.
Okay, thank you. Mick?
I guess first of all, I'd like to know what those concerns are that people have, so please bring those to land use meetings so they can be heard, because those concerns are what are part of the revisions. And I served on land use, like I said before, from '98 up until 2007, and I chaired 2 major revisions. And at one of them, I believe we had 40 or 50 people at a couple of the hearings. So there was a lot of activity there, a lot of people had input into those changes. So please bring your concerns to those meetings. It did start in 1979 as a result of A1 exclusive zoning out here in the town, and so the requirement then was to have a land use plan. And that has evolved every 5 years since then. And so it's really your plan. I think it's a good plan. There's some things I'd probably tweak in it, but I think it is more driven by the town residents to bring those concerns and have those part of the major revisions. So it's not up to me to say it should be changed. It's really up to the town residents to come in and do that. Transfer of development rights, I think there was a lot of thought into that. It's right now presently not included in the ordinance. So there's still discussion time on how that's going to get included and when it's going to get included. So there's still a lot of time to talk about the effects of that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. The third question, we start with Barrett. How do you envision the issues with Mr. Gale being resolved, and what procedures should the town adapt to avoid similar situations from happening in the future?
I think that the first thing that you have to do, but obviously the first way to resolve the issue with Mr. Gale is to let it continue to travel through the Supreme Court and then deal with whatever that decision is. I don't view that as being the best choice. I think the interest accruing on the loan and I think the lack of self-determination from our part makes that a bad choice. I think we need to sit down and talk to Mr. Gale. In 2012, his attorney sent us a 6-point letter that basically said the things they needed to see in a negotiation to consider a negotiated settlement. Up until now, we haven't ever responded to those 6 points, even though I outlined a plan to the board at that time to do so. So I believe that that's the first thing. We've got to look at what they sent us. We've got to put together some kind of a negotiating plan to meet with David about so that you can each have something to offer. I think in the future it might be well if we didn't necessarily have a board that was very, very rigid in dealing with town residents. David's a fractious individual. He can be very hard to deal with, but other townships can deal with him without getting sued. And so that I would hope that a different approach and a more landowner, citizen-centered approach would keep us out of mischief in the future.
Okay, thank you. Roger?
Yes, interesting question, because Barrett says about negotiating with Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill was court-ordered to sit down and negotiate, and our attorney and their attorney agreed on the mediator who would sit down with him, and at the last minute his lawyer suggested that he not do it. So the town board suggested that we try and negotiate with him, and they felt I maybe was the best one to sit down and negotiate with him, because Mick and Pat have dealt with him face to face, and I never had. I met with David, I think, on 5 different occasions. He was gracious enough to let me come to his house, and we discussed on what he wanted and what the town board wanted, what we were offering. The closest offer that I got from David was that he would give up $239,000 of this lawsuit if the town board would give him his house, which would be on an 1.5 acres of land that does not have a density unit, and if we would continue the road from where it is now to across the front of the rest of his property and across Voss's property. And we felt that was not negotiable, so that's the only way that these negotiations ended up. I guess that's it on that.
Thank you.
I guess I agree with Roger here. I don't think we can negotiate with him. He's been ordered to negotiate in the past, and he hasn't. I think we gotta just see what the court system says here, and hopefully we can resolve it after that, no matter what we have to do. In the present, hopefully, I mean, this started, the majority of the town wanted the town to protect that property, and it kind of got snowballing. And now it's where it's at. I think we're going to have to see what happens, and in the present, try to avoid something like this happening. I guess down the road, hopefully we can do that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Barrett?
David's gonna be tough. To negotiate with him, you're starting way behind the gun. You really don't have any leverage, okay? The one approach that you do have, though, is David still needs to live in the town, and he still needs to be able to not have this sneers and remarks, okay? You might be able to negotiate with David to escrow the account with the courts. That's going to bring us down to a 3.75 interest rate when we borrow from the state of Wisconsin, not the 12% punitive. Okay, it's a start. 8.25% is a lot when you're well over $1 million in interest. It's well over $400 a day. We need to cut that down. It's a start. Am I interested in giving David a house where there's no density unit? No, I'm not. Continuing the road, I would probably have to agree with that, but I don't consider what is built as a feasible road for him. I'm not sure if we have gone to that length to say this meets our road standards for him to continue on with that. Maybe we need to allow him to make concessions to get to another part of his land to build a house if he so desires.
Okay, thank you. Mick?
Roger, you forgot one point in your negotiation, and that one, his other requirement was that the total town board resign, except for the treasurer, because she writes the checks. You know, most people have to apply for land use issues, for building permits. We all have to do it. I had to do it. You have to go through the process, go through the criteria, desired, mandatory, to try to meet the goals and objectives of our land use plan. David Gale said that he wasn't going to have to do that we couldn't stop him from what he wanted to do, even though he didn't have a density unit on the land. And that's been kind of the driving force. The town has tried to negotiate, tried to settle it, but I'm not willing to throw away our land use plan and the consistency that we've shown in that to give David what he wants for a couple $100,000. I don't think our land use plan is up for sale. We're all willing to negotiate and keep negotiating, but we always hit a dead end. I mean, we got to the last point in court-ordered mediation. Judge Mosier was picked as a mediator, and David pulled out at the very last minute. So, you know, these are things that we're up against. We're not just out looking for people's land to take. We're trying to do our due diligence in what's in the best interest of the town. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, Brent?
Just a second here. Okay, the lawsuit in its form that I observed. It is interesting here. At the point of time the lawsuit is awaiting the court decision is in Supreme Court. The word is to hear the case or not. So, as we hear from Radke, the same, we don't know. It's in doubt. What's going to happen? I challenged the board about 6 years ago. Please talk to Mr. Gill. Talk to him and reason with him. Maybe something will happen. I was denied. So we aren't going to talk to him. It's going to deal. We're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win. That was 6 years ago. Okay. Brought to the attention of the township. I've been a real estate agent for 15 years. The power in anything is the driveway. They made that driveway a park road, not a township road. If they made the road to township standards, they're cutting off the accessibility of his property. The next thing, in this court settlement, the lawsuit is about the eminent domain and what town of Perry is paying for the land. That's it, period. Nothing to do with the land use plan at all. Thank you.
Okay, the fourth question, we'll start with Roger. What is your opinion on the Oehlhof Church Preservation Association helping town residents pay the bill that may or will be incurred from this lawsuit with Mr. Gell? And if so, how would you make this happen? And if not, why not?
Well, we've already set in the plan that if we lose at the Supreme Court level and have to pay this $1 million or $1.3 million lawsuit, we have applied for an application from the Commission of Land Trust. We've been approved for it. We have not signed anything yet because we're not sure of the amount. We have put out flyers as to what this is going to cost you as individual taxpayers. It will be a loan set over a period of 20 years at a 3.75% interest, which actually amounts to, and you can do your own figuring, for $100,000 of your assessed value of your town's portion of your taxes, not your total taxes, just on your town's portion of your taxes. Anywhere from $88 to $90-some, I think, is there's been kind of a controversy over whether that's correct or not. But, the other thing is the people that have gotten behind this and have gone after fundraising, and it's tremendous the number of people that have said, you know, we're willing to help, whether it's $1, $10, or whatever. It's the people that are behind us that make us want to pursue this situation. And I'm confident that we will come out in the end, one way or the other, and it's not going to make anybody lose their home or keep them from selling their home.
Okay, yeah, Roger just gave you the numbers, and I think we could probably do better than that if these committees and groups raise the money, or to help us pay for this. So hopefully we can resolve this and get those groups to work with us to lower that tax burden on us. I think it's very possible, but we've got to be strong in this with Mr. Gale.
Okay, thank you, Brent.
In regards to the Hockey Log Association paying for our debt, they're a nonprofit in charge of maintaining a church. That's what they do. We don't own the church, it's around them. They've been very gracious to us before. I don't think that it's their responsibility to pick up our tab. Okay? If they are willing to and have a large enough endowment to maintain and protect that church that we have spent so much money protecting, that's their first interest. If they help us out some, that'd be fine as long as their endowment is protected. When you start looking at the numbers, and there was numbers sent out, 1 million in this political flyer, the number in the town budget is 1.1, there's talk about 1.2, 1.3, there's talk about over $400 a day. The 12% punitive interest on over $1 million is real, okay? And it's going to be gaining, if you do your math, over $100,000 a year. It's a nice income for them. It will be a pretty good chunk. You will feel it. Some people over the 20 years could be $10,000 to $12,000 for the payment of that park.
Okay, thank you. Mick?
Yeah, as was stated, the Hockey Log Church lawsuit, the Gale lawsuit against the town is actually waiting in the Supreme Court for them to take it up or not. Once that's decided, we'll know one way or another what the amount is that we owe. We have secured the loan that we talked about here, and that will have an impact on your taxes. There has been a number of people working hard to secure letters of support for this. Now, letters don't translate into money, but it's taken a couple years to get those letters of support from people. Even some people who didn't respond back to us initially. So that's very encouraging. The Hockey Log Church Preservation Association has been gracious in their support for this over the years, and I'm actually the president of the Friends of the Parks of Erie Township, and that is also a 501(c) nonprofit organization that was started to help raise funds and maintain the park, so that's active in fundraising as well. So I think a lot of us have been connected to try to work on that, but we're going to have to find savings on things in the budget. There's going to be other fundraisers that we could use in recycling and such that we can use. But we have to keep after the support that we found in the letters from around the world, actually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, Mick, you're mentioning a lawsuit waiting in the Supreme Court. Is whether they're going to hear it or not. First of all, we're paying 12% interest on this. And it's bleeding this township. Who are the winners here? The attorneys, aren't they? They're the winners here. Not us. But, sure, you come up with numbers, what they're going to pay for taxes because of this. But guess what? It's cost us money. Think about it for years. What has to happen to this township now? Well, we have to cut our budgets off because we don't have enough money to pay for what's